Everyone always ranks players based on their quality, but they overlook the cultural impact that they've had on the beautiful game of football. Which is why today we'll be assembling the Mount Rushmore for every single position. These aren't just the best 4 players. These are the 4 players who, in my opinion, are at the top for impact, innovation, history, quality, and aura. Guys, I introduce you my first Mount Rushmore goalkeepers. The reincarnation in front of you of the famous Lev Yashin. We have Gianluigi Buffon. We have Manuel Neuer. And we have my brethren, Peter Schmeichel. Yashin is obviously on the list because he's the only goalkeeper to win a Ballon d'Or in the history of the sports. Guys, just fathom those words. The only player out of the millions that have existed in the game, maybe the thousands, the high 100,000s that have existed in the game, the only goalkeeper ever to win a Ballon d'Or. He was voted the best goalkeeper of the 20th century. He's the first ever sweeper keeper. There is no Neuer. There is no Onana without Lev Yashin. He's a guy that has saved over 150 penalties. De Gea couldn't save one at Manchester United until he faced Mark Noble at West Ham when Mark Noble was retiring and he had to come on for a ceremonial penalty. Next up is obviously Buffon. In my opinion, the best Italian player in that 2006 World Cup. Cannavaro, overrated. I don't know how he won the Ballon d'Or. Buffon literally had a better season, better year for club, for country as well. And the amount of time, the amount of experience Buffon had at the very top of the game, it is unlike any other goalkeeper by far. He's still number 3 for the most expensive goalkeeper of all time. Guys, he signed like 25 years ago for Juventus. Never won the Champions League though. Next up is obviously Manuel Neuer. In my opinion, the best goalkeeper to ever do it. The best goalkeeper of all time, in my opinion. The amount of titles, Champions Leagues, he's got 2. The amount of games he's played for Bayern Munich. Lev Yashin did it first as a sweeper keeper. Neuer did it best. Neuer was playing as a midfielder at times. He was literally at the halfway line, I'm telling you. I'm not joking. Go look back at it. And he's still playing on the highest stage at 40 years old or wherever he is now. Easy. He's definitely there. Now, Schmeichel is a choice that he's here not because I think he's the 4th best goalkeeper of all time, but he literally changed a rule in football because of his performance in the 1992 World Cup. Sorry, the World Cup on my the 1992 Euros, where Denmark won the competition. And mostly because of the back pass rule, because he could have received the ball and just held it. The natural impact of that on the game is huge. He literally changed the tactics of the game. And he changed the rulings of the game where the back pass is not allowed and the goalkeeper is only allowed to hold the ball for 6 seconds. 6 seconds. That's what they say, 6 seconds. Schmeichel for me on aura, impact, and because he obviously won the treble for United in 1999 is on the Mount Rushmore. And in my opinion, he's a top 3 Premier League goalkeeper of all time. Number 2 in my list, I'd put Cech first, but I don't think Cech's impact was high at all. I just think he was part of the best defensive season in the Premier League for Chelsea 2004-2005 and just had a very stable career for Chelsea, even though he wasn't good for Arsenal. And he also had a big voice in the team. Also the first keeper to score in the Prem. There you go. Very true, Isco. I completely forgot about that, but that's adding cultural impact, aura points. That's why Schmeichel is on my Mount Rushmore. And he had balls. He also just had balls. He had cojones. Next up, guys, let's move on to the next position. And I believe it is right back. Yoink. Dani Alves, Cafu, Lam, and Zanetti. Carlos Alberto for that goal in 1970 World Cup final. And he got snubbed. Yes, he's getting snubbed today. Dani Alves is the best right back of all time. It is quite crazy that Brazil have produced 3 of the best right backs of all time. I think it goes in that order. Dani Alves, Cafu, and Carlos Alberto are the best 3 right backs of all time. But in my opinion, Dani Alves is the best right back of all time. Then it goes Cafu, which is why he's on the list. Also very revolutionary in the way that he played as a right back, which is why Trent is like that these days. Even Robertson on the left. Dani Alves as well. Played like it because of Cafu earlier for Brazil, for Milan, for Roma. But Dani Alves is by far the best right back for me. Maybe it's influenced by the Barcelona team. Maybe it's influenced by the fact that he was playing on the same flank as Lionel Messi. But the way he was also a good defender, Dani Alves. But the way he moved forward is by far better than Cafu, in my opinion. Next up, we have literally the opposite of... Zanetti did go forward a decent amount before for Inter. But we kind of opposite. Lam, a man that never got a red card in his career. As a right back, Kimmich? Are you dumb, fam? Are you dumb, fam? Kimmich is definitely not on the list. Get out of here. Get out of here. For me, Zanetti's not the fourth best right back of all time. But just because of the fact that he's a one-club man, so many appearances for Inter. Played as a defensive midfielder as well when needed. Best right back in Serie A history. Shit, Cafu played in Serie A. Second best right back in Serie A history. Thuram is not here, but he was close. He was in the shortlist. Thuram was in the shortlist. Maicon, Maicon is one of my favorite players of all time, by the way. Hems. I appreciate Maicon so much. That Maicon goal, where he scored from an impossible angle, one of my favorite goals of all time. I loved Maicon, but he's not better than Zanetti. That is my right back list. Who would be on your right back list, chat? Cafu, Lam, Alves, Carvajal. No! Get Carvajal out of here. The fact that people say he was supposed to win a Ballon d'Or is stupid. Stupidity. That is stupidity at the finest. Get Carvajal out of here. Was he not top 3 in the Ballon d'Or as well? Or top 5? Off. No Carvajal. Next up, let's move on to the left back list. Marcelo, Roberto Carlos, NHS, Luke Shaw, and Breitner for Germany. Guys, NHS, Luke Shaw has something to say about this. NHS, Luke Shaw is up there with one of the best versions we've seen of a player. Luke Shaw, when he has competition at left back, is one of the best left backs the world has ever seen. Luke Shaw, after Mourinho left, is one of the best left backs we've seen. But unfortunately, the man that does pip him to the place is obviously the GOAT, Maldini. This is my final list. Marcelo, Roberto Carlos, Maldini, and Breitner. Marcelo and Roberto Carlos, in my opinion, are very similar to the Dani Alves and Cafu conversation. I believe Marcelo is a better left back than Roberto Carlos, but Roberto Carlos is the innovator. He's the revolutionizer. He's the man that did it first. So many crucial goals, iconic free kicks, iconic goals. That's why he has to be on the list. But I think Marcelo is a better left back than Roberto Carlos. The reason why I have Breitner, guys, if you don't know Breitner, and if you look at Marcelo and Roberto Carlos on already the mountain, and if you look at Davies, if you look at all the attacking left backs, Robertson in the Premier League, Breitner is their daddy. Breitner is their daddy. Bayern Munich legend that scored 103 goals in 369 league appearances. 5 Bundesligas in 9 seasons at Bayern, plus a European Cup and numerous DFB Pokals. Then, he left for 3 years to Real Madrid and won 2 La Ligas. And you thought that was it? No, because he also won a Euros in 1972 at 21 years old. And you thought that was it? I didn't mention the biggest part of it. He scored a goal in a World Cup final in 1974 against Netherlands to win the competition. One of the most underrated players in the history of the game, in my opinion. And obviously Maldini is there because he's the best left back of all time. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore as a left back though, chat? Evra's definitely not on the list. Let's stop. Evra's can't lace the boots of these players. Nuno Mendes. That is such recency bias. Nuno Mendes is not on this list. Chill out, buddy. Ashley Cole. I don't mind Ashley Cole, but he's not on the same heights. Very, very good defensive left back for both Arsenal and Chelsea. Best left back in Premier League history. He's up there. I don't mind the shot. Next up, we've got the centre back list. The Mount Rushmore of centre backs. These are my choices. It might surprise you. Chat, my choices. By the way, just remember, these aren't the best 4 centre-backs of all time. I know I might have surprised some people, but my 4 centre-backs are Beckenbauer, Virgil van Dijk, Baresi, and Coman. I know the list might have surprised you, but the reason I went for Beckenbauer, you thought I was gonna say Van Dijk. Van Dijk is 100% on this list. Ramos died for now. Ramos is no. Ramos can go. Ramos is not on the list for me. Overrated centre back. On ability, not even top 5 of all time. Overrated. Beckenbauer is a must, obviously. Obviously, Ballon d'Or winner, the only one that did it with Cannavaro, obviously is there. Van Dijk, people are going to question it. But the reason I have Van Dijk is because for me, for the amount of time I watched the game, not that long, obviously. And from what I've looked back, the best peak of all time by a defender, the best peak as an athlete by a centre-back is Virgil van Dijk, 18-19, to 2022-23. Probably even the last Premier League title that he won with Liverpool. That is the best peak by a defender ever witnessed. The best peak by far. Guys, he was contending for the Ballon d'Or and it was a 50-50 decision against prime Lionel Messi, who's the best player of all time. That is why Van Dijk is on this list. I think he's the best Premier League defender of all time. Baresi won everything with his club, one club legend, won the World Cup with Italy. He didn't win the Euros though, so that does put him down. He stayed with Milan when they got relegated. Milan's player of the century, RIP to Baresi. There's no Maldini or Nesta without Baresi. There's probably no Baresi without Beckenbauer, which is why he's on this list, because he took the reins as that sweeper, that libero from Beckenbauer and did a very, very good job. And then in his later years, went further back and didn't progress up the pitch too much. But yeah, Baresi is 100% on this list. And Coman for me, because of his attacking threat. Coman for the amount of goals, the free kicks. That's why he's on this list for me. It's a very personal pick, but the early days of games, of football games that I played, I always had him in my team as the legends. And I always had long shots with him. Like, it's just, for me, it's like very nostalgic. And I love the attacking long shot threat that he had. That's why it's a personal pick for me on this list. He's not a top 4 centre back. But for me, it's a personal pick. Because as Greek Avenger mentions in the chat, he's a very, very unique archetype of a centre back. Chat, what are your 4 centre backs? Beckenbauer, Baresi, Ramos, and Nesta. I don't mind it. I think Ramos is overrated though. Beckenbauer, Baresi, Ramos, Nesta / Vidic. Next up, defensive midfielder, chat. These are the choices that I've made for my Mount Rushmore defensive midfielders. I've got Kante, Busquets, Makalele, and Mateus. Thoughts, chat? I think you can. Rijkaard over Makalele, people are saying. Rijkaard? Where's Rijkaard, people are saying? Rijkaard ain't here. Makalele is here for one sole purpose, by the way. He's got a position named after him. Does any player have a position named after him? Rijkaard is probably overall a better player, yes. But Makalele has a position named after him, that's why he's on the list. Cultural impact or points gained. And he was a amazing defensive midfielder as well. Rodri has cleared everyone except Sergio now. Has Rodri cleared Mateus? I don't think Rodri has ever had as good of a prime as Kante as well. I think prime-wise, Kante is the best. Kante won the Premier League with Leicester City, and he was their best player. Whoever says Mars was their best player, whoever says Vardy was their best player, whoever says Christian Fuchs was their best player, no. I know no one says Christian Fuchs was their best player, but Kante was their best player. Then he moved to Chelsea instead of going to Arsenal, one of their best players there, whilst they won the Premier League back-to-back under Conte. A couple years later, Chelsea won the Champions League. Who was the Champions League man of the match in the final? N'Golo Kante. Busquets, best of all time. Longevity, career-wise, best of all time, easily. No one can disagree with that. Mateus, at the start of his career, he's a very modern type of defensive midfielder, like a Declan Rice these days, where defensive midfielder goes forward and gets a lot of goals. Guys, he scored 204 goals in his career. Insane. He won both the Euros and the World Cup with Germany, obviously winning the Ballon d'Or in 1990. Won everything in his career except a European Cup. Except a European Cup. Rodri won the Euros. Rodri hasn't played enough for me. Central midfielder, Mount Rushmore. Xavi, Zidane, Zico, and Bobby Charlton. I don't mind people saying Charlton should be as an attacking midfielder, but I put him here, okay? Have it. Hot take, ladies and gentlemen. Iniesta is not on any of my Mount Rushmores today. On quality alone, I think Xavi is the second best central midfielder of all time, only behind Zidane. The controller. The man that was carrying the midfield of Barcelona since the academy days, guys. Go watch. I watched this a Twitter clip recently, an X clip, whatever you want to call it, of Xavi carrying the Spain team in the under-21 World Cup. Guys, Xavi was at his prime ever since he was 18 years old. And his prime continued to the day he left Barcelona. His prime was so long. And if you saw Xavi when he was young, he was way more mobile. He was playing more like a Iniesta, more like a Zidane back in the day. His dribbling when he was young was actually out of this world. And in my opinion, the best passer of all time is Xavi. The reason I have Zico is, have I ever watched Zico? No. I don't have anything about him to say from my own eyes, from my own experience. But the way the older generations have talked about Zico is the reason that he's here. Those are the aura points that I need, the cultural impacts that I need, that he impacted the older generations with. And yes, you might say he played only in Brazil, but Brazil had one of the best leagues at that time when Zico was in his prime. He scored, as a midfielder, 508 goals in 731 appearances, and he provided 232 assists. Guys, he had more goal contributions than games played, which I thought was only happening these days. But apparently I'm lying. His record for the national team for Brazil is actually wild as well. 48 goals in 71 appearances as a midfielder. And I saw an interview of Ruud Gullit saying that Zico is the best dribbler on the ball that he has ever seen. And obviously Bobby Charlton is on this list because I had to put him on some sort of Mount Rushmore. He has played in midfield as a centre midfielder. Some of his best matches were in centre midfield. Bobby Charlton has to be on this because obviously he's part of the famous Busby Babes, a Manchester United team that represented the whole of England when they played abroad in Europe. A man that won back-to-back first division titles with the Busby Babes before tragically losing 8 of those teammates in the 1958 Munich disaster, which would have 100% impacted his mindset, his career, his brain, his thought process, his feelings, the way he played after he returned, luckily, with only minor injuries from a crash. Then, famously, he stayed at Manchester United to rebuild the team. He wins the World Cup in 1966 with Bobby Moore and himself, Bobby Charlton, being the best players for England at that time in that competition. He wins the Ballon d'Or. And the rebuild is complete at Manchester United because literally 2 years later, he wins the European Cup for Manchester United, being the best player and fulfills a dream the Busby Babes held when they were traveling to Munich back and forth. Also, he's one of 10 players in history to win the World Cup, European Cup, and the Ballon d'Or. So he's 100% on the Mount Rushmore. Next up, we've got the attacking midfielder, Mount Rushmore. These guys just had to be here. And I know Di Stefano's attacking midfielder, guys. I know you're looking at me strange there because he did play a lot of games as a striker. But he also played a lot of games in midfield. He was up and down way more than people suggest. He was playing as a deep-lying playmaker a lot of the times. So I averaged the positions out and I put him in attacking midfielder because a lot of the times he was second striker. Most of his career was a second striker, chat. I think the players that I've picked is self-explanatory. Maradona, Johan Cruyff, Platini, and Di Stefano. Super Ballon d'Or winner. Multiple times Ballon d'Or winner. A man that literally revolutionized the whole game more than any football player has in the history of the game in Cruyff. In the history of the game. And he was so mad at Ajax that he returned to their rivals and won the league. Crazy, crazy aura. Guys, and just look at Cruyff photos. Does he have the most aura in the history of the game? Kaka over Maradona. Get the out of here, boy. Get out of there with those takes. These are my left wingers. Ronaldinho, my favorite player of all time. He's gonna be on my Mount Rushmore. I love Ronaldinho more than any player that I've ever loved in the history of the game. Ronaldo is here. He's not going to be a striker. Ronaldo, for me, was better at left wing than he was a striker. I loved left wing Ronaldo. What a player, especially when he joined Real Madrid. Those first seasons, first games at Real Madrid at left wing, one of the best players we have ever seen. Ever. Next, I have Ryan Giggs. And I know you might talk, Ryan Giggs, he's a nothing player. Other than stealing his brother's wife, Ryan Giggs is forever. 13 Premier League titles. 20, guys, not as a defender like Maldini or Baresi or other defenders that have played so many years. 24 years as a winger midfielder at the pinnacle of football. That is why I have Ryan Giggs in my team. 13 Premier League titles, guys. I think if you combine all of the players that are playing in the Premier League right now, they don't have as many titles as Giggs. Maybe they do. I haven't thought about it, but I haven't calculated it. Not gonna lie, I would have Neymar over Stoichkov. For me, Neymar overall is probably a better player than Stoichkov. Yes. But what Stoichkov did at CSK Sofia and for Bulgaria is incredible. Guys, Bulgaria reached a World Cup semi-final when Stoichkov was at the club, when Stoichkov was their main man. Neymar never did that. Neymar never won the World Cup. Neymar never reached a World Cup final. Neymar for Brazil in World Cup is not a good player. Stoichkov was doing it for Bulgaria. Giggs started as one of the most exciting wingers in the history of the game, guys. The way people talking about Giggs when he was just going through the academy and going to the senior team, United players say that is the best player they have ever seen when he was a winger, when he was young. The intensity, the pace, the delivery, the finishing. And obviously we saw what he did when he scored that FA Cup final goal versus Arsenal, which contributed to United winning the treble in 1999. And then he molded into more of a midfielder, a controller from the left side of the game later in his career. Guys, he was playing until 2014. That is wild. And for Stoichkov, I'd say Stoichkov is the best Balkan player in the history of the game. Stoichkov won 5 La Ligas with Barcelona. Obviously, winning a golden ball as well, the Ballon d'Oro. Should have won 2, though. He should have won 2 Ballon d'Ors. And he put Sofia on the map, especially in Europe. He won the European Golden Boot at Sofia as well. What is your 4 for the Mount Rushmore of left wingers? Rivaldo, I don't think is on this list. And he dives against Turkey. Ora lost is crazy on Rivaldo diving against Turkey. Gets shot in the foot, holds his face. Next, let's do the right wingers. I had to make a last choice and put Messi here. I would have preferred Messi's striker because I think he's had way more impact on the game as a striker. But even when he's played as a striker, he's drifted a lot to the right wing. And he's played obviously a lot of games to the right wing. And for Argentina, I'd say he's way more of a right winger than he is a striker. Messi, Garrincha, the GOAT, George Best, the alcoholic, and Robben. The reason I have Robben, when you think of a right winger, the first thing you think of in your head is Robben. The style of player they think of is Robben. The right wing with so much pace that cuts in and puts it into the top left corner with his left foot. The wonder of a left foot right winger. The man that emphasizes that is Arjen Robben, the 1968 Ballon d'Or winner alongside Bobby Charlton in that UCL winning campaign. George Best is also very aura, like cultural impact, like the alcohol era. He symbolized a lot of the stuff that's changed about the game, the stuff that influenced players in the past negatively. But his name is just here. Like Maradona speaks of George Best as the best player he's ever seen. Like that's the levels of George Best. If there wasn't George Best at that time and Bobby Charlton, if George Best wasn't on the come up, Man United, I know they didn't win a title in 20 years, but they would have been nothing at all at that time if it wasn't for George Best. Garrincha is the GOAT. That's why he's here. No comment. And I think we will all agree to this Mount Rushmore because the strikers list is this. R9, Pele, Van Basten, Gerd Müller. I was thinking of Suarez, I was thinking of Lewandowski, but this is the obvious list. Gerd Müller's impact for Germany and the incredible statistics that he pulled for Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. Van Basten, aura personified. Finished his career as 28, 29 years old and is talked about as the best striker of all time. You know how much aura and impacts that you must have had during that time for people to say that? Multiple time Ballon d'Or winner. Pele, probably the best striker of all time. And R9, the best peak of a striker of all time in my opinion. R9 Prime is up there with Lionel Messi as the best peak of all time. I think R9 Prime is the best striker by far. The physical man that could dribble, score with his left, score with his right. How many goals did he score going around the goalkeeper? How many chips? How many times did the opposition fans clap at him? United did that when he scored 3 against us. But yeah, thank you for watching and have a great day. Peace out, peace out, peace out.